Welcome back, soap lovers. Today is an absolutely beautiful day to dive into some unhinged daytime drama. And let me tell you, my jaw is still permanently glued to the floor. If you thought the political fundraisers, the Genoa City crossovers, and the secret plasma rings were the peak of the chaos, you were completely unprepared for the literal and figurative storm that just hit Fairmont Crest. The tornado that ripped through town wasn't just a catastrophic weather event. It was a violent catalyst that tore the masks off our favorite characters and exposed their rawest, most vulnerable truths. We need to talk about the absolute bloodbath at the country club, the emotional devastation that followed, and a specific bombshell that is about to rewrite the entire history of this show. Grab your tea, because we are unpacking every single detail of this masterpiece. Let us set the scene. The Fairmont Crest Country Club is in absolute, unrecognizable ruins. We all knew the tornado was coming. Martin Richardson literally announced the warning from the podium, but anticipating a storm and witnessing its aftermath are two entirely different visceral experiences. The Grand Hall, which just moments prior was filled with the glitz and glamour of the Abbott family and the Dupree dynasty, is now a dark, shattered wasteland. The massive crystal chandelier has crashed to the floor, glass is scattered like deadly shrapnel, and amidst the dust, the darkness, and the howling wind, a piercing, blood-curdling scream cuts through the silence. It belongs to Leslie Thomas. Yes, the very same Leslie Thomas who just hours ago was strutting around the party in a hooded cape, offending everyone in her path, and relentlessly plotting to crash the elite circles of Fairmont Crest. But in this singular, horrifying moment, the scheming mastermind is completely gone. What remains is just a terrified, paralyzed mother staring at a literal nightmare. Lying unconscious in the rubble is her daughter, Eva Thomas. The visual is stark, gruesome, and deeply unsettling. This isn't just a minor scrape for dramatic effect, it is a life-threatening, bloody scene. And who is right there in the thick of it, desperately applying first aid? Ted Richardson? Ted, who has been so completely caught up in his romantic tug-of-war between his new flame Shanice Johnson and the sudden, awkward fantasies of his ex-wife Nicole Dupree, is instantly thrust into the role of a desperate savior. He is on his knees in the debris, his hands covered in blood, fighting against the clock to keep Ava stable while they wait for the wailing sirens of the ambulance. The tension in this scene is so thick you could cut it with a scalpel, but the true emotional crescendo doesn't happen in the rubble of the country club. It happens under the harsh, glaring fluorescent lights of the Garland Memorial Hospital emergency room. Let's talk about the utter and complete deconstruction of Leslie Thomas. This is a woman who thrives on absolute control. She is a woman who casually drops a $100,000 donation at Mona's church just to prove she cannot be bought. She is a woman who will march into a police station and sarcastically threaten Darlene Hawthorne without batting a single eyelash. She is always the smartest, loudest, and most manipulative person in the room. Yet, in the sterile environment of the ER, Leslie completely breaks down. She collapses to the floor, her knees hitting the cold linoleum as she sobs uncontrollably. It is raw, it is ugly, and it is arguably the most brilliant, gut-wrenching piece of acting we have seen all season. All of her armor is stripped away, leaving only a mother begging the universe for a miracle. And then, amidst her hysterical, breathless sobbing, Leslie drops a line that absolutely paralyzes the room and the viewers at home. She grabs Ted, looking him dead in his tear-filled eyes, and begs him to save their daughter. Standing on the brink of life and death, all lies, schemes, and financial gains vanished into thin air. At this moment, she wasn't trying to manipulate Ted. She was a desperate, wounded beast cornered, begging the man who was the child's biological father to use his power to intervene. The overwhelming remorse and terror that gripped Leslie was astonishing. If Eva didn't wake up, Leslie Thomas would surely descend into a dark madness where her previous antics would become childish. A distraught mother with no financial resources and utterly lacking in moral boundaries that was a storm more terrifying than any tornado. But Leslie's overwhelming grief needs an immediate target. It needs a scapegoat. A mother's pain, when it cannot medically fix the problem, instantly morphs into weaponized rage. And who is standing right in the crosshairs of her fury? Catherine "Cat" Richardson. The animosity between Leslie and the Richardsons is well documented, but this confrontation is deeply, violently personal. Leslie lashes out at Kat with a venom that is genuinely hard to stomach, accusing Kat of secretly gloating over Eva's broken, bloody body. Leslie's twisted, grief-stricken logic dictates that because Kat and Eva don't get along, Kat must be reveling in this tragedy. It is an unfair, entirely emotional projection, but from a psychological standpoint, it makes perfect sense for a woman who is rapidly losing her mind with fear. The conflict escalates to a boiling point when the exact details of the accident come to light. Leslie discovers that right as the chaos erupted and the tornado hit, Kat forcefully pulled Eva away from Isaiah Hawthorne. In Leslie's eyes, this physical intervention is the direct, undeniable cause of Eva's catastrophic injuries. She connects the dots in the most malicious way possible. Kat pulled Eva. Eva was thrown into the path of the flying debris. Therefore, Kat is single-handedly responsible for Eva fighting for her life in the ER. The confrontation that follows is chilling to the bone. Leslie doesn't just yell. She issues a terrifying, blood-curdling threat. She looks Kat up and down and tells her that she better get on her knees and pray that Ava wakes up, because if she doesn't, Leslie will make sure Kat's life is a living, breathing hell. However, let's take a step back and look at the actual logic of Kat's actions, because this is where the writing of Beyond the Gates proves its absolute genius. Kat is not a villain in this story. Despite their earlier bickering at the fundraiser where Kat overbearingly intervened with a reporter and Eva rudely brushed her off, insisting she could handle herself, Kat never wished an ounce of harm upon Eva. When the chandelier fell, the lights went out, and the glass shattered, Kat's instinct was purely protective. She pulled Eva out of what she perceived to be the direct line of fire. It was a chaotic, split-second decision made in the terrifying dark. The fact that it resulted in Ava getting hurt is a tragic, unavoidable twist of fate, not a calculated act of malice. Furthermore, we have the ultimate, undeniable proof of Kat's true intentions. Remember that brief, cryptic moment in the weekly promo where Ted looks at Kat, notices her hands are covered in blood, and a shell-shocked Kat replies, "It's not my blood"? We now know exactly whose blood it was. It was Eva's. While Leslie was screaming in horror, Kat was the one who actually dropped to the ground, ignored her own safety, and did everything in her physical power to compress the wound and stop the bleeding before Ted took over. Kat's hands are literally stained with the evidence of her desperate attempt to save Eva's life. She didn't run away to save herself. She didn't stand back and gloat. She stayed in the dangerous, unstable rubble and fought tooth and nail for a girl she barely even liked. Kat's internal panic and heroic actions add such a rich, complex layer to her character, elevating her from the oblivious girl who interrupts her grandparents' romantic evenings to a genuine hero under pressure. This brings us to the most beautiful, redemptive, and emotionally satisfying arc of this entire disaster. When the dust finally settles and Eva miraculously regains consciousness, the dynamic shifts in a way absolutely nobody saw coming. Leslie fully expects Eva to validate her maternal rage, to point the finger at Kat, and to fuel the impending war against the Richardsons. But Eva does the exact opposite. Eva does not blame Kat for a single second. Eva remembers the chaos. She remembers the intent behind the pull. Instead of harboring resentment or anger, Eva feels an overwhelming, profound wave of gratitude. She looks at Kat, the very girl who annoyed her just hours prior at the party, and sincerely, deeply thanks her for trying to save her life. "I feel like you are a real sister to me." This line from Eva is an absolute emotional gut punch. It completely disarms the hostility in the room and leaves Leslie standing there, utterly speechless. For Eva, who has constantly had to navigate the overbearing, toxic, and highly conditional love of her mother, finding a genuine protective bond with someone like Kat is revolutionary. It completely transcends their petty social squabbles and the deep-seated rivalries of their families. The shared near-death trauma of the tornado has stripped away their egos and left only mutual respect. Kat, hearing these words from Eva, is visibly moved to tears. Her tough, privileged exterior crumbles, and Kat sincerely apologizes for ever misunderstanding Eva in the past. Think about the narrative brilliance of this pivot. The writers used a literal natural disaster to tear down the invisible walls between these two young women. They walked into that country club as adversaries, separated by class, family loyalty, and stubborn pride. They're coming out of it as fiercely loyal allies who will undoubtedly protect each other moving forward. This newfound sisterhood is going to be a massive, unsolvable problem for Leslie. Leslie desperately wants to wage war on Kat and the Richardsons, but how can she destroy the person her daughter now views as a savior and a sister? The psychological warfare here is just beginning, and Leslie is suddenly fighting a battle on two fronts. And let's not forget the massive ripple effects this will have on the rest of Fairmont Crest. How will Isaiah Hawthorne react to nearly losing the love of his life? And how will he view Kat's role in pulling her away from him? Ultimately, this breathtaking episode proves that Beyond the Gates is not just about campy drama, secret plasma rings, and country club gossip. It is about the raw, messy, and unpredictable nature of human connection. We saw the absolute worst of Mother Nature bring out the absolute best in Kat, and the absolute most vulnerable, terrifying side of Leslie. It forces us, as viewers, to ask ourselves, what does it truly take to see the people around us for who they really are? Sometimes it takes the world literally crashing down on our heads to clear our vision. As we wait with bated breath for the next episode, the questions are burning a hole in my brain. Will Eva make a full recovery without any lasting physical or psychological trauma? And most importantly, when Leslie's blinding rage finally subsides, will she accept this beautiful new sisterly bond between Eva and Kat, or will her toxic need for control push her to sabotage it? One thing is for absolute certain. The tornado has passed, but the real storm in Fairmont Crest is just getting started. Let me know your wildest theories in the comments, and keep your eyes peeled, because in this town, nobody is ever truly safe.